Hello everyone, it's me Clayton. I just finished watching A Quiet Place Part 2, directed once again by John Krasinski and starring Emily Blunt, and several other returning cast members from the original film, while also introducing some new characters for this one. Now, A Quiet Place was certainly one of the more unique horror films when it was released, given that it relied heavily on the American Sign Language and on creatures who are blind but can sense sound. And when it came to a concept being turned into a horror film, we generally liked it a lot. So when the sequel came out, well, when it initially came out and earned high praise from critics, I was really excited to see it. Then COVID happened and I had to wait over a year to finally see it. But for a movie released on my birthday, I have to say that waiting for it this long is absolutely worth it. But let's get to the story, shall we? The story is that the family from the first film are going through their adventure through the post-apocalypse pretty much exactly where the first film left off, where they end up finding new survivors and they end up finding a new place to hide out after the climax of the first film. And while some survivors are generally helpful and are even some friends that they remember from the past, a few are not so helpful and would rather kill our main heroes than actually assist them, even when one of them might be able to stop this threat of these creatures as a whole. But that's all I'll say about the story without spoiling anything. One of the things I generally liked about the film is that for the opening minutes, we actually get to see how this whole post-apocalyptic scenario actually took place. We get to see the inciting incident, which I really, really liked, because not only can we see this how it initially happened without over-explaining it, we also get to see John Krasinski again, and even though this is his only part in the film, he generally does as good of a job here as he did in the first film. And because of the circumstances of what happened, Emily Blunt and the kids have to hold together even more of the film here than they did in the first one, and thankfully their acting is as strong as ever. Especially since in many scenes, there's no dialogue at all, and you just have to watch the characters' faces and watch their actions to get what's going on. But that's the beauty of this series. It doesn't treat you like an idiot, and it actually decides that it lets the audience think while they're going through it, which so many films just do not do, whether they're horror or otherwise. On top of that, it has an increased sense of scale when it comes to the locations, the bloody action scenes, and when it comes to where the story goes for its climax. But in the way that good sequels do, this increased scale makes total sense within the story, and it doesn't diminish from the creatures when it comes to their ferocity. They're just as deadly as before, and even with an identified weakness, they're still scary as all hell, especially in two specific sequences, one of which in the middle of the film and one at the end. And on top of that, I love how the film is edited and paced. It's only 97 minutes long, but it feels like it takes advantage of every second. And in several sequences, it's so silent in the theater where everyone's being captivated that you can hear a pin drop and you can cut the tension with a knife. Exactly how these films should end up working. Now, I don't know if there will ever be A Quiet Place Part 3, but given how this film ends, I wouldn't be surprised if there was. And honestly, as long as Krasinski knows what he's doing, I say he can make as many of these as he wants, because they are a breath of fresh air when it comes to the genre. That's why I'm going to give A Quiet Place Part 2 a 9.5 out of 10. One of my favorite films so far this year. See you next time.